Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now, your host, Tim Johnson.
Curt Eysink serves as the Executive Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission. He was appointed to that position in July of 2009 by Governor Bobby Jindal. Curt has helped to lead the transformation of a state agency from a large and bureaucratic organization to one that has played a critical role in the significant improvement of our state's business climate. He is now leading the effort to ensure that our state can recruit and train enough construction craft professionals to meet the coming demand. Curt Eysink joins us when we come back on the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this. Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Curt Eysink, the Executive Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission, joins us. Curt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim.
You guys have done great work there over the last few years in the Workforce Commission, transforming it from the old Department of Labor into a much more nimble organization, really focused on meeting the needs of job seekers and employers in our state. So let's talk about that transition, how that's gone, and really some of the successes you've realized in really streamlining the organization.
It started off with I think a very clear mandate from Governor Jindal, very clear responsibilities we have to meet, and then he gave us the room to run. So it's been a great experience, driven by the needs of business and industry primarily. We have tried to line up all of the services in our department to make sure that it's easier for business and industry to hire in Louisiana and easier for individuals in Louisiana to find a job.
You guys have done some things specifically with unemployment compensation and streamlining that process. Talk about some of those specific successes that you've had.
First thing is we've really improved our online services so that it's easier for employers and individuals to do their unemployment insurance business with us. I guess the key improvement we've made is we've really connected unemployment insurance to workforce development, so that unemployment insurance is a reemployment program. If you file a claim with us, the first thing you're doing is actually filing for work searches and work registration, so that we can track your services in our system. We can help you find a job faster, find a better job, a job that pays more, maybe one that has better long-term prospects, but one primarily that shortens your stay on unemployment insurance.
Well, that really leads us to one of the great technology advances that you guys have made, and that's the Louisiana Star Job Rating System. Tell us about that in more detail, what it is and how it works.
It's so simple, yet I think unique among the states. It's really been a joy to put this thing together. Great staff that's done it. We've looked at all of our forecasts, long-term, short-term. We looked at what every occupation in Louisiana pays, how fast they're growing, how much they're growing, how many jobs are open that we know about. And we've combined all those and weighted those factors so that the very best jobs get 5 stars. Those that don't pay so well or don't have many openings, really don't provide you with a good future, they get 1 star. And then, of course, they're graded in between. And anything 3, 4, or 5 stars is a great job, particularly 4 and 5 star jobs. And we're seeing a tremendous alignment to that already.
Well, it really does help focus job seekers on the best careers that are available in our state, and that's kind of a service that is, as you say, very unique for state government, certainly unique among the other states. So if I'm an employer out there and I want to list my jobs with the Louisiana Workforce Commission, what do I do?
Go to laworks.net or visit one of our 63 one-stops around the state. I'll tell you this though, list those jobs with us because that improves the number of stars that those occupations will get. We're seeing people aligned to those 4 and 5 star jobs. So the first place they look is a 5-star job. It's going to be lots of openings for me. It's going to pay well. I got long-term prospects there. So if you can do something to bump up your stars, you're going to get more attention from job seekers, and you're going to find better quality job seekers too.
Now, as I understand it, if I'm a job seeker and I go on the site, not only will it tell me what those best careers are, what are the most available jobs, where they might be located, but it'll also give me information in terms of where I can find training, where I might be able to get certificates to get into those jobs. Talk about that aspect of the process.
Every one of our occupations has licensing and education requirements associated with it, over 800 occupations. If you click on Find Training on that Star Jobs website, it'll take you to training in your area that will align you with that particular occupation. You can also click on there to go actually find a job that's open on our website that you can go apply for.
It's a wonderful process, and again, we encourage both employers and job seekers to check it out. That sort of transitions us into the big discussion, right? Depending on what you read, we've seen somewhere between $60 and $100 billion worth of work announced in our state, investment that's coming here, thousands and thousands and thousands of permanent jobs to be created. One of the critical path elements of that, obviously, is being able to build these new facilities. And to do that, we're going to need more skilled construction craft professionals in our state. Recruit them, train them, bring them in, whatever it might be. Let's talk about what that construction craft industry looks like in our state today in terms of the number, the baseline number that exists, and the additional workers that we know we're going to need to meet these demands.
You're exactly right that it's a staged process. First, we've got to build them. So we have to figure out who's going to do that before we can operate them and figure out who's going to operate them. So step one, who's going to build them? We looked at historically with business and industry at the table. We have about 100,000 craft workers, give or take, skilled craftsmen in our state. What we anticipate needing is an additional net 35 to 37,000.
What we would call full-time equivalents, right?
Exactly,
right.
Exactly. And on top of that, we will need to backfill all of the people who are going to be retiring or leaving that industry during that same period. The industry typically has an attrition rate of over 14%. We figure about 10% would be true for us with all the work coming and the higher wages it would command. And that turns out to be the case today. It's about 10%. But you add that on 10% per year, and we're now up to well over 80,000 people that we need between now and 2016. And we're going to be updating those forecasts along with business and industry as announcements continue to be made and as timelines change in these projects, so that 86,000 is going to grow.
86,000, a tremendous number. Now we're going to get into some of the specifics of how we're doing it in public-private collaboration in the next segment. But one of the things I've said as I travel around the country and talk about careers in construction and talk about that industry is that as big as that demand is and as daunting as that challenge may seem, our state is uniquely positioned, I think, to meet that challenge based on things that have taken place over the years and all of the work that's going on, say, over the last year or so. Now, we got about a minute left in the segment, but let's talk about, from your perspective, how Louisiana is positioned, maybe uniquely positioned, to meet that challenge.
I think the key thing that positions us to meet that challenge is the complete collaboration of business and industry with state government and the education and training services sector to align to the needs that we know exist today and that will exist in the 3, 4, 5 years to come.
We're going to talk specifically about that collaboration when we come back. We're visiting with Curt Eysink. He's the Executive Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission, and you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox 4.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this. Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. We're visiting with Curt Eysink. Curt is the Executive Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission, the old Department of Labor in Louisiana. And Curt, before the break, we talked a lot about this significant demand that's coming to Louisiana. We know the critical path is the construction craft professionals that we're going to need to recruit and train. 35,000 full-time equivalents. Because of attrition issues, we may have to recruit and train as many as 85,000. But Louisiana has created a really unique collaboration, as you mentioned, between public and private entities in our state, all working together like never before. Maybe unprecedented if you look across the United States in terms of that collaboration to really meet the demand, to go out there and recruit and train this next generation of construction craft professionals. So give us an overview of how this whole process got started, and then we'll dig down into the details some.
Well, it goes back to the days after Katrina. There was a huge shortage of skilled people to help the state rebuild. And business and industry got together to try to figure out that solution. Coming now on the heels of very low natural gas prices, a greatly improved business climate in Louisiana, and all of a sudden we've got projects being announced. Seems like left and right. Every day it seems like there's something.
We can't go, and I said this to Stephen Moray when he was on the show a few weeks ago. It doesn't seem like we can let a week pass without $1 billion announcement in our state. And that's with a B, $1 billion announcement. And so And what he said to me is, guess what? If you think the last 2 years have been good, wait till you see 2014. So we're going to ramp up the pressure on you as much as we can, Curt.
Oh, that's what we're here for. That's our challenge. That's why we're doing this. So we've got these massive projects coming one after another. It's truly epic. The business and industry is back at the table again saying, how do we build all these things? And groups were popping up around the state of plant owners, their contractors, and other sectors involved in this. But it wasn't truly coordinated. But with the pure magnitude of what we see coming, it was clear that we needed a statewide solution. So we have a Workforce Investment Council within the Louisiana Workforce Commission, made up primarily of business and industry. The majority of the members are business and industry from all of the sectors of our economy.
Our friend Charles Monyatt helping to lead that effort.
Charles is the chairman of that,
right.
Absolutely. And we said, this is a group that's well positioned. We have all of the right state agencies, all of the education institutions, and business and industry, these sectors in particular, all at the table. So let's group it all under there and see if we can't get our arms around it. And that's how it started. The Workforce Investment Council created a craft workforce development committee to look specifically at this issue, and we brought in additional people who don't serve on the WIC but are very engaged and are integral to our success as a state and in these particular industries. Brought them together and said, how big is this? And let's figure out how to get our arms around it and solve it.
One of the things that was fascinating to me in this process as you brought this collaboration together, and I want to talk about some of the specific roles that a lot of the agencies and private organizations are playing, but was that you really did some analytics. You said, we can't just guess at what we think these numbers are going to be. So when you come up with these numbers of 35,000 and then full-time equivalents and then as many as 85,000, there were some very detailed analytics, very detailed research that went into coming up with this as part of this overall effort. So how did you go about doing that? Announced projects coming in, and I know you looked at that data. Talk about that process a little bit.
We contracted with LSU first and had their economists get involved in this. We use our wage record data to determine actual employment in these industries historically. We had LSU reach out to the companies that were making these announcements and other companies in that industry, and to also scan the full array of news and other industry information out there to build a full picture of what's coming as best as we know it at that particular time. We surveyed companies in Louisiana, interviewed those companies, and came up with a set of numbers, and then went back out to the same companies and said, does this make sense to you? Does this match your view? And once they gave us the go-ahead, then we brought that in, and the Workforce Investment Council adopted that forecast. Key thing here, we also looked at the construction industry itself, and we looked at the construction users roundtable data. And this is a group of plant owners and their contractors. They enter their data into this national database.
Construction Labor Market Analyzer, right?
That's the tool, exactly.
Right.
Very useful for us. It's key to this. That tracks actual craft breakdowns on each type of project. So we looked at the projects that we have, that particular type. We looked at how those are staffed by building trade and by cycle in the plant, and we overlaid all of those together for the projects that we have, that we knew about and that are coming, that are solid. And that's how we came up with the actual numbers in the forecast.
So very detailed process to get to this number, 35,000 full-time equivalents, 85,000 potential overall.
Well,
so now, once you, go ahead, I'm sorry.
It has to be detailed because
Right.
we expect other institutions and private industry to react to these numbers. Those are the sights on the whole system. Tells us our target. If people didn't have faith in that target, we couldn't move the needle.
Well, and now that we have those numbers and everyone has agreed that these are what the numbers are, there is now subcommittees that have been created in order to go out and execute a plan to make this happen. So we got about a minute and a half left in this segment. We'll carry it over to the next segment, but let's talk about those subcommittees. George Tarajano of PALA sort of chairing that effort. But give us an overview of that part of now how we'll execute this plan.
Yeah, a lot of credit goes to George Tarajano with PALA, who has been the chairman of this craft task force all along. Done a terrific job of marshaling all these resources, keeping us going and driving toward a really viable conclusion. Set of recommendations. The recommendations is the start of the work. tells us what the plan is to produce 20,000 or 22,000 construction workers a year. Formed 4 subcommittees to take pieces of this plan and to actually work the plan. And that's the stage we're in today.
We'll come back from the break and talk about those 4 subcommittees in more detail. We're visiting with Curt Eysink. He's the Executive Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission, and you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox 4.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this. Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. We're visiting with Curt Eysink, the Executive Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission. So we've set it up. We got all this work to do now to go out and recruit and train this next generation of craft professionals, and we're doing it with some subcommittees under the leadership of George Tarajano, who's the overall chairman of the effort. So let's talk about what those subcommittees are. As you and I joke sometimes, I know a little bit about one of the subcommittees, but what are the subcommittees and what are they charged with doing?
Well, you clearly know a lot about the retention subcommittee
right.
since you chair it. This subcommittee is geared to solving that retention issue, getting that attrition rate down from 10%, about where it is now, to even lower. Every 5 percentage point improvement in that rate is 25,000 fewer people we have to train over the next 4 years.
I mean, that really is a significant number and a great challenge for us. And we've actually met with a number of human resource and recruiting professionals in these individual companies, and they've given us great feedback on some things that we may be able to do as a state from a best practice standpoint. So retention is one.
I want to give your committee credit for building a set of best practices that industry can follow to really address this issue. So we got a training committee, a subcommittee, run by Jimmy Sawtelle, Vice President of the Community and Technical College System.
Right.
They're the predominant trainer in this field in the state of Louisiana. So they have compressed the training schedule without diluting it. So now somebody can go get trained in about 3 months from step one to being a helper, earning $15 to $20 an hour.
Which equates to somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 a year.
Nice starting wages
Not a
after
bad
3
deal
months
after,
of training.
after 3 months,
exactly.
Right?
And those folks who continue their education and training for 2 years, while they're working, can get up to $30 an hour pretty quick.
$60,000, $70,000, not counting
Great
the
wages.
overtime they may work.
Yes,
But
with a really good outlook.
let's talk about training, because that's one of the places where great collaboration is taking place, public and private. So you've got the Louisiana Community and Technical College System, all of their campuses, great work that Jimmy Sawtelle is doing there. But you also have representative of private training organizations, the 2 ABC chapters in Louisiana, Al Vargas and his group in Baton Rouge and Lake Charles. You got Angela Latino Geyer and their group down in New Orleans. but also great support from organized labor and the AFL-CIO, Louis Wren and the folks he works with. So that collaboration is critically important as well.
Very appreciative of ABC. We couldn't be where we are today without ABC's integral involvement from the get-go, not just in the subcommittee, but all the way through. And their agreements with the community and technical colleges to really expand each other's footprint and to get the maximum usage of all of the space and capacity we have. Same thing goes for the AFL-CIO. Louis Wren, the president of that organization, has been at the table all the way through. One of the key things we did was standardize the training. What training has credibility with business and industry? It's NCCER,
right.
AWS for welding, and also the union equivalent. That's also going to be accepted. So we want to remember that. We've got a lot of folks in those two other training sectors that are critical for us to meet our numbers.
Well, the interesting part there is that when I got into this training game over 20 years ago now, there was so much finger pointing that went on, and there were so many silos that existed, and all of that's been broken down. You've got public and private training providers working together. You've got state governmental agencies and business organizations working closely together. And the silos have been broken down, the finger pointing has stopped. And that's a great tribute to the leadership that you've provided and the work you've done. That's got to be personally satisfying to you.
Thanks, Tim. The way this has all come about is very satisfying to me, but I think the drivers of this are business and industry. We made sure that they're at the helm so that whatever we do is lined up at their target. If we didn't do that, I think we'd just be lucky, and we intend to be much better than lucky.
Well, it's an amazing accomplishment when you get organized labor to sit down with ABC and they agree on training plans and can move forward together. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is the recruiting subcommittee, the recruiting effort, because that's going to be a critically important part of what we do here. We've got about a minute and a half left. You mentioned the NCCER, the National Center for Construction Education and Research. They've developed a nationwide career awareness and recruiting program called Build Your Future, byf.org, for those of our listeners, our viewers who might want to go out and check that out. Talk about what BYF, Build Your Future, has done to customize their materials for Louisiana.
They have been a fantastic partner. None of this has happened without great partnerships. BYF.org has partnered with Louisiana to be the first state that has its own subdomain under that national umbrella. So if you go to louisiana.byf.org, they've customized their material. It explains career paths and occupational information, but the wages that it reports are wages that you would earn in Louisiana today, or that are being paid in Louisiana today. If you go click on there for training, it'll direct you to the community and technical college system. And the thing about that is if they're full, they will direct you to ABC or union training or wherever that may be. And if you want to look for jobs on that website, it'll direct you to the jobs in Louisiana. So louisiana.byf.org. Build your future, build Louisiana.
Build your future, build Louisiana. Critical. Curt Eysink, Louisiana Workforce Commission, thanks for the work that you're doing in the state and helping to make our business climate really what all it can be.
Thank you,
and we're going to have you back on sometime soon. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you for joining us today on the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox 4.